Anyhow, these people, they were beheaded for Christ. For years and years and years. Do you know what they were saying the one world religion was going to be? In fact, there's people that still hold to this. Just take a guess.
Used to be Catholic.
The Catholic Church. And it's still the Catholic Church. I'm not hearing anybody telling what I'm teaching today with the Islam. I've only heard that from one person and not in a book or anywhere like that. But when we look at the Catholic Church and we look at the persecution of the church, how many people did they behead throughout history? For those that have read Foss's Book of Martyrs, maybe. Do you remember how they were killed?
Hang on the cross.
The Romans persecuted him, and yes, Peter was hung upside down on a cross, but that was the Roman government, not the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church has always burned people, burned them at the stake. They never kill anybody slain with a sword or anything like that for one reason. They have a motto, without the shedding of blood. That's the verse they take and they use. The Catholic Church doesn't behead anybody. But yet these souls during the tribulation period was beheaded. Now let's look at the Islamic group. How many people have they beheaded? It's one of the religions out there that I know that is not only trying to spread their religion by violence, but they actually behead people. We know that with some of their first hostages that they took after 9/11. I forget. There's three boys or three people I have in mind. I can't remember. I think that they were in the Navy or something of that sort. They publicly beheaded them. What's that, brother?
They took a saw and sawed their heads.
They saw their heads up. I'm thinking of three captives that wasn't long after 9/11, I don't think, and they had a video published on YouTube or something like that was floating around of them beheading these three people. Islamists are the ones that behead people. In the world we see today, how many other religions behead people? Not many. But those that belong to Islam do. But as we were talking, they have a hatred for Christians. The Antichrist will also have this. We've seen that here in Revelation chapter 6, verses 9 through 11, and Revelation 20 and verse 4. Who else will the Antichrist have a hatred for? The spirit of the Antichrist, as we've seen in this documentary. There's one group. Hitler went after the same group. Israel. Someone go ahead and read Revelation chapter 12 and verse 13. Revelation 12 and verse 13.
When the dragon saw that he was cast under the earth, he persecuted the women which brought forth the man-child.
Okay, I just need to make one correction on nothing against you. You said the word women.
Yeah, woman.
Okay, it's woman.
Woman.
And there's a significance for that one there. Who's the dragon? Satan. And who's this woman that brought forth this man-child in Revelation chapter 12 and verse 13?
I'm not sure.
Go a little bit broader, brother. Mary belonged to what group? The Jews. Israel. The woman that the dragon came to persecute is the woman. The woman is Israel. The man-child that was brought forth was Jesus Christ. The Antichrist will have a hatred for the Jews. I mean, that shouldn't be a great big revelation. We know that he will make a peace treaty with him at the beginning of the tribulation period. And in 3.5 years, he will break this peace treaty. Just a little interjection why, once again, I believe that Islam, that's going to be the one world religion. No Islamist can hold a true peace treaty. Their religion states that they are allowed to make a peace treaty with non-believers, but it cannot be a true peace treaty. It must be broken at some point. Antichrist will break the peace treaty 3.5 years into the tribulation period. But the Muslims hate Israel. They hate him. Do you know why? Ishmael. Ishmael. Can anyone tell me who Ishmael was?
He was the firstborn of Abraham.
Correct, brother. He was the firstborn of Abraham. But to who?
The maid.
The maid, Hagar. God promised Abraham that his seed would continue. It would become as the stars of the sky and the sands of the sea. Sarah was a little bit too old, or so they thought. And this is a perfect illustration of what goes wrong when man tries to fulfill God's promises his way. Ishmael was the firstborn, which means that he was supposed to get what when it comes to Jacob? Not Jacob, Abraham. The inheritance. As the firstborn, the inheritance should have been his, which means he should have been the rightful one whose seed would have been as the sand of the sea, as the stars of the sky. All that Abraham had should have been his through inheritance. Everything that God promised Abraham should have been fulfilled through Ishmael because of that position of the firstborn. Was that God's plan? No. Did God himself state that this was not going to be the way that it was going to be? Yes. God declared that Isaac was the rightful seed. He was going to be the one through who Abraham's seed was going to multiply. Isaac was going to be the one to receive the inheritance. The true firstborn through the biological mother, if you want to put it that way. Through Abraham's wife, Sarah. But Abraham loved Ishmael. And even when he sent Hagar and him away, you know what Abraham prayed? That God would bless Ishmael. That God would bless Ishmael. And you know what God's response was? I will make of him a great nation. One great nation already promised to come out of Isaac. Another great nation promised to come out of Ishmael. And the conflict between sibling rivalry continues today. The Muslims come out of Ishmael. The Jews, the Israelites, come out of Isaac. The Jews claim that they are the rightful heir, and they are. The Islamists, the Muslims, claim that they are the rightful heir. Thus, we have conflict against the Jews today. And when you look at the nations of the Middle East, there's one little speck that's Israel, and all around them is Muslim. And they hate Israel. And let's go off that word, hate. When we look at the Antichrist, as was pushed through the documentary, and we're looking at the spirit of Antichrist, what is one common thread that we see there throughout it all? What's one emotion that drives it all? I've just said it. Hate. 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 The Antichrist, when we look at who he is, the spirit of Antichrist, who it is opposite of Jesus Christ. It's one that opposes or is looking to replace Jesus Christ. And when we look at it from that aspect, he cannot have the characteristics of Jesus Christ. Rather, he will mock them. But he won't have the true characteristics. Would someone please read? Well, before we go there, the Bible describes God in one emotion as well. And John loves to use this emotion in the book of 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John. Does anyone want to take a stab at that one? Love. God is love. If you don't have God, you don't have love. Someone please read 2 Timothy 1:7, 2 Timothy 1:7, and someone else get 1 John 4 and verse 18. 2 Timothy 1:7. And 1 John 4:18. And while you're looking for that, does anybody know off the top of their head what the Bible talks about the individual who does not have love? He doesn't have Jesus. He's not of God. So in that regards, does it not make sense that the spirit of Antichrist will be driven by hatred? He's opposite Christ. He's looking to replace him. And if Christ is love and God is love, the Antichrist can't have love because he knows not God. Someone read 2 Timothy 1:7. We're talking about how the Antichrist and even the spirit of Antichrist is opposite of Christ. And what does the Bible state? For God hath not given us the spirit of what? Fear. The Christian should not have a spirit of fear. So in this regard, can that really be of God? No. In fact, the more you study it, people will try to say, well, Allah is a God, and God is one God, and they're all one God. We all worship the same God. My God is not Allah. Allah does not portray the characteristics of my God. In fact, he can portray the opposite of my God. And if anything, I would have to say that Allah is the dragon. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear. Fear is not of God. Do we get afraid sometimes? Yes, we do. But is that fear of God? No. God has not given us the spirit of fear. He's given us the spirit of power. Well, I should say the spirit of power. He's given us power, love, and of a sound mind. Fear brings confusion. It brings doubt. It leads to chaos. God is not a God of chaos, but He's a God of order. What about 1 John chapter 4, verse 18?
There is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear, because fear hath torment. He that feareth is not made perfect in love.
There is no what in love?
Fear.
Fear. How do the Islamists or the Muslims want to drive about their campaign? Not just hatred, but there's another characteristic here now. Starts with an F. Fear. Why do you think we call them terrorists? They harbor, they feed on fear. I mean, the more publicity that we give them in the media and the news, the more that the fear is getting out there, and the more we're driving them down, the more we're driving ourselves down, and the more that they're winning, because they're going about through fear. That's why we call them terrorists. They strike terror. They thrive on terror. They feed on terror. They move their campaign through terror, through fear. God's not given us that spirit of fear. This cannot be of God if it's being driven by terror and fear. Those are not characteristics of my God. But they are characteristics of the Antichrist. Fear, hatred. There's another big one that we miss. There's two big ones. How about the spreading of a one-world religion? I mean, throughout the whole documentary, that was evident, a one-world religion. I lost my notebook. I must have left it at home. I had quotes in it. I was looking for it while we were here. I forget what they were saying. Conquer the world for Allah was one of the quotes from what I remember. Spread it by any means necessary.